Good morning and welcome to the KDPG Sunday Edition. I'm Ken Rice. This morning, the Pittsburgh of the future, what it will look like, what is the critical role the technology will play in the new Pittsburgh. Our community, of course, is very familiar with reinventing ourselves. When the steel industry began its big downturn, there was a real struggle to find our way. And now, beyond eds and meds, it's becoming increasingly apparent that technology will be a growing part of our economic engine. As Amazon considers where to build a second headquarters, a Seattle-based technology website has already taken notice of Pittsburgh's technology boom. Geekwire decided to spend an entire month here in Pittsburgh covering this emerging economic story. And we welcome Todd Bishop to the KDPG Sunday Edition. He's co-founder and editor of Geekwire, native of Northern California, but he spent some time in Pennsylvania too. David Shribben is away this week. John Allison, editorial page editor of the Post-Gazette, joins us. John, nice to have you here. Todd, welcome to you. Welcome to Pittsburgh. Let me just tell you, in Seattle, it might be known as Geekwire, but here in Pittsburgh, it is Geekwire.
I've been told that, and I've been practicing.
Right.
So I'll see if I can do that by the end of the show.
There's a language barrier. I hope you've overcome that, you and your fellow staffers. So I want to hear directly from you. What is Geekwire, and what are you doing here?
Geekwire is a national technology news site based in Seattle. We like to say that we look at the world of tech through the lens of the Pacific Northwest. We're one of the few sites that do that. You have a lot of tech sites in Silicon Valley, very few. In fact, we're the one up in the Pacific Northwest that does that. And this was really an effort by us to look beyond our region, our geography in Seattle, and say, what's happening out there in the rest of the world? Are there places where we could go that have a similar innovation story and really have similar potential to Seattle? And we decided to put out our own RFP in the spirit of Amazon's HQ2. And so Geekwire HQ2 is promising to bring up to 3 jobs to one city.
For a month.
For a month.
Okay.
For a month. And,
we'll take it.
And we're here. We received bids, offers, proposals from around the country. Nothing financial, no tax incentives.
Right.
But we selected Pittsburgh because of the sheer amount of innovation and startup horsepower that's here.
Have you ever taken a field trip like this before?
No. We like to do what we call Geekwire adventures, and those range from testing Amazon delivery over the weekend and then writing about it to doing a multimodal race across the city. And Geekwire HQ2 in Pittsburgh is our biggest adventure yet.
Okay, so you've got a few staffers here, and you'll be here throughout the month of February.
That's correct.
And Pittsburgh wasn't just chosen because you guys thought it was cool. You had a contest, right?
We did. In fact, we received interest from around the country: Sacramento, California, Raleigh, North Carolina, Philadelphia, Denver, cities around the country. And Pittsburgh really had that rich history and the strength of the technology ecosystem. There are things happening here at the University of Pittsburgh, at Carnegie Mellon, that really are not happening anywhere else. And it does play into the Amazon discussion as well.
What I have appreciated about your coverage is that you're bringing out the human side of the technology. You're talking about potential downsides to Amazon. You went to a church. You talk about philanthropy. The Pacific Northwest angle is interesting. Is that a more human way to look at technology, you think, than Silicon Valley? You're close to nature and...
Absolutely. I think Seattle and the Pacific Northwest have a unique view on the world and some commonalities with Pittsburgh, frankly. If you look at the Gates Foundation and its philanthropy extending from the fortune that Bill Gates built at Microsoft, and if you compare that to what's happened here many decades before with Andrew Carnegie and his legacy, I think there really is a feeling of giving back that is common among the two cities. It's interesting as well, the University of Washington in Seattle is not a school on the level of Carnegie Mellon, of CMU, but they have been actually bringing in CMU researchers. And so there's some common DNA among the technologists in the two communities.
You had the piece about what's called the Seattle freeze.
Yes.
And there was a warning to Pittsburghers, you come here, everyone's so nice and friendly, how you doing, hon? But in Seattle, can you talk about that more, about that Seattle freeze?
Absolutely. It really is the reputation of Seattleites, and it can become something of a caricature, but there is a lot of truth to it, that people in Seattle tend to keep to themselves. And I'll give you a good example. My colleague and I went to the Mattress Factory art gallery here in Pittsburgh last weekend, and it was the Brew Fest, and we got to sample all of the microbrews from around the Pittsburgh region. And at Seattle, people would have gone to that type of event with 3 or 4 other folks, and they would have kept to themselves for the whole night. My colleague Taylor Soper and I walked out of that event having had genuine, real conversations, getting to know 15 to 20 people over the course of that 3 hours, and it was remarkable and something that we wouldn't have seen in Seattle.
So the inevitable question is, if Amazon comes to Pittsburgh, does it ruin that culture? Does it become, do we get the Pittsburgh freeze? Is it inevitable when you have a big behemoth like that and its corporate culture can, have such an impact on the overall civic culture?
It is something to be concerned about. I don't think it's inevitable. I think it needs to be addressed up front. And if Amazon were to choose Pittsburgh for HQ2, I think the citizens and the leaders of this community should have that conversation with Amazon. Amazon is a company, I'll give you a good example. At their annual meeting every year, the mic runners, the shareholders meeting, the mic runners that go around, they are not allowed to hand the mic to the people who are speaking at the shareholders meeting. And at the last one, there was literally kind of a grappling match between a shareholder and the mic runner, and Jeff Bezos was up on stage. And I expected Jeff Bezos to say, it's okay, let him speak. And it's a metaphor, I think, for Amazon's approach at times. They like to control the message. They tend to be very transactional. They speak to you and engage with you when it's in their interest, in the way that it's in their interest. And
that sounds pretty typical for any company, to be honest.
It is. It's on the extreme.
But sure, there were the New York Times articles a couple of years ago
Yes.
about the workplace culture, not just in the warehouses, but in their headquarters. And that was read with great interest, I'm sure, in Seattle.
Absolutely. And that story was also very anecdotal. And it really depends on which part of Amazon you're in, your manager, and the type of people that you work with in terms of whether that type of culture is what you see. And I don't want to paint a completely negative picture of Amazon. This is one of the most innovative companies in the world. Because they're in Seattle, we have a front row seat to things that people around the world see 2 to 3 years later. It's kind of the modern day Peoria, if I could go back to that whole analogy. We see a new automated grocery store called Amazon Go, where you walk in, you scan yourself in, you pull an item off, and you don't even go through a cashier. Basic things like the new Spheres, the multi-million-dollar project right in the middle of downtown. Amazon has the potential to reshape whichever community it chooses in ways both good and bad.
So I want to get your, not just yet, we're going to get your prediction on the record of where you think the Amazon headquarters will go. But before we get to that, I'm guessing before you decided on this, your own HQ2 project, before you decided to get input from your readers, you probably knew about CMU, you probably knew about Uber, Google, certain things. Now that you're here, what has surprised you in a good way or a bad way?
You're right. We knew about the big things, the self-driving cars, Google, a few things. You're starting to see a second wave of engineering centers here, Microsoft, Amazon, others who are opening offices here that we've seen in Seattle. We're now counting more than 100 engineering centers from Silicon Valley that are in Seattle. So I really think that regardless of whether Amazon comes here, you are going to see an increased wave of that over the next 3 to 4 years here, if it follows the pattern in Seattle. I've been impressed with the sheer depth and breadth of the robotics industry, and I realize that is not news to people in Pittsburgh, but clearly we knew what was going on at NREC and everywhere else, but the startup activity that's been creating has been a bit of a surprise, the extent of that startup activity. And frankly, and again, I know this is not a surprise to Pittsburghers, but the innovation that's happening in health technology, and as you said at the beginning, eds and meds are clearly one of Pittsburgh's strengths, but it's happening at a level that has been surprising us.
Are you getting feedback from your readers all over the country, all over the world? And they're saying, well, I didn't know these things were happening in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, the first question is, what are you doing in Pittsburgh? And then I think when people read more of the coverage and see what's happening, they start to understand that this is really a window into the broader world in terms of artificial intelligence, robotics, where things are going. And it plays into this broader discussion that we're having.
John, you want to jump in here or?
No.
Okay, all right, hold your fire then, because I want to hit you with a couple of things. You guys wrote a piece sort of explaining why you're here, and a couple of these are just great. People have asked if you are spying for Amazon. Are you here doing Jeff Bezos' bidding? Keep an eye on them. What are they up to? Do they really deserve us to come in? Is that it?
We are not.
That's not it.
We do know that Amazon executives and employees read Geekwire, but we are not in any way affiliated with them.
Put that on the record. And then,
But did you put him in the Super Bowl commercial? Did you have anything to do with that?
No role in that, although it was a clever commercial, I have to say.
And Alexa mentions Austin, right, the weather. Did you take anything out of that? We actually ran news stories on that because people thought, oh, a hint on where they're going.
I'd be surprised if they did that.
Okay.
Although, I mean, this is a company that's, they're clever and creative, and who knows?
It could have been an Easter egg.
It could have been.
Is the city of Pittsburgh paying you to do this?
No, they are not.
Okay.
Although I will say we sat down with Mayor Peduto and reshaped some of his opinions about Amazon, and I kind of felt like I deserved a consulting fee as we left, but we are receiving none.
You reshaped his perceptions in what way?
I think the mayor really understood Amazon to be the Amazon of its request for proposals, where it's very open and welcoming. And to be clear, that may well be what Amazon does wherever they go with HQ2, but that has not been our experience in Seattle. So it would be a change in their culture. Just this week, city officials and Amazon are holding what's essentially their first planning meeting 10 years after Amazon started to really grow with a lot of
Seattle
pace.
city officials.
Yes,
Yeah.
Seattle city officials are holding their first planning meeting back in Seattle and to talk about repairing their relationship and where they go from here.
Yeah, and I'm sure you got the impression from Mayor Peduto that the experience with Uber has perhaps had him maybe a little more wary or just put some things on his radar that he might not have thought of in putting together the proposal for Amazon.
Absolutely. I think this is something where it's important to get these commitments up front, to get them in writing. That said, I think the spirit here in Pittsburgh and the government of being willing to work with these companies has positive influences as well, and I think that could be something that is attractive to Amazon.
All right, we need to take a break. When we come back, what does Todd Bishop think about Pittsburgh's chances of landing Amazon's HQ2? What cities have a better chance than we do? How do we rank? That and more when the KDPG Sunday Edition continues in just a moment.